So they will probably be in it. Ready to take a look? All right, let me bang the gavel. All right, so in calling the meeting to order at 6 o'clock sharp, I just want to acknowledge that Kyle has been kind enough to donate this gavel and this gavel set to the office of president, which will be duly passed down with appropriate pomp and circumstance when another person occupies the chair. But in the meantime, I'll try to resist the overwhelming temptation to overuse this particular tool. So call to order. We have one person online, the other four in person. So the proof of quorum to conduct business is apparent. All right, so we're here at a special meeting, and I know we've been through this before, but just at a special meeting, we have a dedicated topic, and everything needs to have a reasonable nexus to that topic, and that goes for our board discussion as well as for any open forum items. So when it does come time for open forum, just make sure that you are restricting yourself to things that are reasonably connected to this topic, and other topics, of course, will be addressed at the next regular board meeting. And so that is our intent here, is to focus on the window facade envelope project, and there are a number of things related to that. It's not an all-inclusive list, and I expect our discussion will take us in different directions. And so before we jump into letter A, I think, Melina, is it correct that just before this meeting, or within an hour or so before this meeting, we got some correspondence back from the folks at Lindman?
Yes, sir.
So basically the status of the main contract is that our legal team reviewed it. I'm not going to, I'm not going to pretend that we're not concerned at how long it took to get to that point, because we are. Our legal team made some notes / red lines, sent it off to TDL and CA Lindman for their review, and there's some responses back. But I think what the folks from CA Lindman are requesting now is a lawyer-to-lawyer conversation, so that they can deal with some of the legalese questions. And so that's where it stands. And Melina, I already saw your correspondence saying that you were going to connect those two people, or two entities. So that's where it stands on the main contract. We are in the kind of like, do you accept this change? Do you know I don't, and I would counter, this one and all that. So steps have been made. Are we happy about how long it's taken? No. But we are moving. Maybe glacially, it might seem sometimes, but there has been some movement in previous days. So let's just kind of dive into it, board members. First thing is the initial payment. And by this, do I presume that we mean the amounts that were authorized under the letter of intent, or some other initial payment?
There was an initial invoice that came.
Yeah, okay, that would have
less
been
than what was on the letter.
Yes. So does anybody have anything further to elucidate on that? I think my perspective was that we just want to make sure that whatever we paid under the LOI is correspondingly deducted from any further charges, because we're essentially authorized it. It's like pre-contractual. But if there's anything else, what was it, 60 some odd thousand or something like that, out of 125, I want to say, was authorized. So we're still under that LOI cap. Anybody want to have any concerns about that, or we just want to treat that as an update made?
So my question when that came out for a letter vote, or for an email vote, was the letter of intent said up to 125K. This was 60K, so it was under that amount, but it also said with appropriate documentation. So all we had was an invoice that said this much for getting to this percent drawings, this much for this much for this. And my question was, what documentation should we be asking for? Because we don't have a contract yet, to substantiate, besides just an invoice for those items that were on the itemized invoice. So I'm just throwing that out there to the team. Do we want something more than an itemized invoice for the things that were itemized on the invoice?
You need any?
I have a question.
Mark, go ahead.
The invoice that we got, has TDL reviewed it? Has TDL been able to substantiate the fact that they have a certain amount of shop drawings that they have in review, or product data that they have in review, that kind of thing?
I'm getting an affirmative nod from Melina on that they have indeed.
That they have?
Have, yes, affirmative.
Okay. So then if they have, I mean, if they are at this point, I guess the architects, engineers of record, I would go by what they're seeing in the paperwork.
Anybody else want to chime in on this?
Yeah, my biggest question when we get the email vote was, is this one of one or is this one of five, or what's the? Because I figured they would come in with everything for the LOI, and it just seems like they came in about half.
Okay. Maybe we should, Melina, maybe that's something that we could ask you to do, is to inquire with them and see, do they anticipate further invoices against the LOI, or whether they don't,
But should that stop us from voting to pay this one?
I'm still.
Oh, no, I mean, yeah, I think, I think since it's work already done, I mean, we can certainly take a vote, but normally, I mean, if it's work already done and it was satisfactory, I don't know that we have had taken votes to pay that in the past. It's usually an officer approves it or something, but
I don't think it's done yet.
it's
No.
not done.
No, so the building permits
Oh,
is
those are-
at
okay.
62% or 60%,
Yeah, okay,
and that total amount is 72K.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem. You know, to me, the invoice seems, detailed enough. But, so, I mean, are we okay to pay it and just get further clarification, and if there's anything else that's gonna be, invoiced to that
Right.
letter?
And you gotta work on the permits, they gotta work on the drawings,
Yeah.
and that's gonna delay it, so legal's already holding us up.
Okay,
This just provides another delay.
okay,
So per TDL, they are going to submit the permits and drawings to the city of Alexandria this week.
anybody, okay. If anybody has a thought, and wants to go back.
So how do we get that kind of information more timely, besides having to come to a special meeting to get those updates and statuses? Like, I didn't know TDL had approved that information. I didn't know TDL was confirming that stuff. How do we get that information more timely? Or do we have to have a meeting to get that information?
I think on Friday, I did a capture bullets on what took place, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, may have missed that, but all right.
So I will
read my-
try
I'll
to
watch
do
that.
it weekly to give you updates, or go and ask the vendor contractors, like, what's the status, so I can provide you guys an update on a weekly basis.
All right. All right, contractual expectations, next steps. I mean, we kind of started to set the stage there.
Do we have to vote on that?
Oh, yeah, I mean, let's just do it for the avoidance of any doubt. Do you have the exact number in front of you? So.
I do not have that. in
Is
front
it on
of me.
you?
No,
Great. Expect my email.
I can start the motion that the board accept the invoice from CA Lynn in the amount of. Take it.
When was that? Thursday?
What's the insurance?
Because we had like 3 things going on. That's why I think I got stuff on mixed up. What would it have been? What day would it have been?
it was like Monday or Tuesday, it was like a week ago.
Okay.
Anthony,
But when we find it, we'll just go back to that and we'll do a motion that, And
Sure, I'll look.
That's no worries.
so that amount, that's different, never mind, that's different.
All right, we'll go back to that whenever we can. We'll just dispose of that very quickly the next time. Expectations, next step. I mean, I alluded to some of this in kind of the intro, which is legal review, legal discussion back and forth. We're hoping to kind of stimulate that conversation so that every step doesn't take, 2 months, right? We're trying to try to get things to move a lot faster than that. But board members, do you, anything in terms of next steps that, you'd like to bring to the group's attention or ask updates from Melina or anything like that?
Okay.
I just want to know what we're going into. We should have a plan. And we have a contract, which I didn't know we had a contract till it got forwarded out, but apparently legal's had it for how long?
I want to say at least
a week.
I don't know.
We've had it for almost a week. which
Yeah, I
they
want to say
probably
they've had it for at least a month.
We did the LOI, so legal wouldn't drag their feet, and we were hoping to have a contract signed at the beginning of June.
Mhm.
We're now middle of June.
And no idea when we're gonna sign. I think the frustration is the lack of
63.
380, 350, 63, 350.
Okay.
Oh, you found it.
All right, I'll get this as soon as Ginger makes her point.
Well, I mean, my frustration is we keep spinning our wheels and we're making no traction. We don't know when we're gonna have a contract. We don't know when or it's gonna be signed. Legal keeps going back and forth.
We're not getting, as best as Melina's trying to keep us in today, we're not getting timely information. This is set for we said to go get a contract 2 months ago, okay? 2 months ago, we had a meeting with the CA Lindman here and we all voted to move forward. And 2 months later, we're nowhere further down the road. I think frustration amongst us and our community. We need to have an action plan going forward. Like legal needs to say, we'll have this thing figured out by this date. We need commitments so that we can start moving this thing forward. I'm very concerned about the price changing because we haven't locked in a contract yet, and therefore we haven't locked in the cost. We've got to protect ourselves, and I feel like legal is letting us down, dragging their feet.
I haven't seen the comments from legal. Has anybody on the board seen those?
Just now,
They
Yeah.
just came in at 5:17 PM, so less than 45 minutes before the board meeting is the first time I saw them. So those of us who are here have these, some of them printed out in front of
But
us.
will this be forwarded out to us? Okay.
So
Are they
we'll forward that out.
consequential or substantial in nature? Or are they the usual legal leaders of, add a comma or,
I mean, to my mind, it looked like it was mostly, I wouldn't say necessarily legalese, but procurement ease, in some way. There wasn't anything to my mind that actually, spoke to the core scope of the project on the technical level. Is mostly about, what happens with the bond and, cost, what kind of contract, cost plus, et cetera. So yeah, I would characterize it as being rich with procurement style language, but nothing that I saw, and admittedly it was a quick scan before this meeting that I thought really spoke to the technical specifications or the overall kind of layman's understanding of the document.
it's a lot of legal jargon, and a lot of it appears to be the bonds. I don't know if legal is tracking the fact that we said we were gonna do the bond option to protect the association. Had they been aware of that, 3 of these questions would be null and void. And then they're arguing about percentage values as far as like interest rates and things of that nature. Which it seems like their response back to legal is in accordance with current life, which is they're going off that national average for interest rates right now.
Yeah. All right, so I will, Melina's gonna try to, connect the parties to hopefully resolve their questions as quickly as possible. I'll remind Kristen again how important it is that we get to cut to the chase on this.
Can we just simply ask her that whatever she's got to do, we put extra money in the budget year. We have plenty of money to finish out this year, which is only a couple days left, right?
Mhm.
We put more money in for next year because we might have change orders, we might have issues, so we want to make sure legal is properly funded. Whatever she's got to do get it done so we can sign a contract at the next board meeting.
Okay.
Which is
So just
not
a
next
couple-
week, but the week
Yeah,
after.
yeah, it's the last. Okay.
I went through the contract in one weekend. She's had it for 1 month.
Yeah, I get the sense that she didn't look at it. I mean, I'm gonna be frank with you, because when I spurred her again earlier, her being Kristen Buck, our attorney, I said, hey, we got a special meeting coming up on Monday. It would be really, we'd like to move on something, or at least have items for discussion. She said, oh, I'll look at it tomorrow and I'll get you.
It's not that long.
And so, that gives me pause, because it was lingering in her inbox.
But some of the things I had questions on, she didn't even ask about. Like, there's one thing in section 4.14.5, and it talked about unusual delays in materials. Okay, define that. What's an unusual delay in today's world? Are we just giving them a complete loophole that they can exploit to, unusual delay, sorry, guys.
Is really around. How that counts too. All right, so, all right, I'll send out, we'll send this out, we'll solicit questions, that once people get a chance to look at it more carefully, and then we'll spur them to action with our next, she seemed to respond when I gave her a date, so it's like, maybe she responded this week too.
Don't tell her next board meeting, tell her like the next Monday or Tuesday.
Oh, yes, no, I agree. Yeah, make sure.
Tell her about end of the week. I mean, that's, in the end of the week is plenty of time for them to review it and deal with it.
You broke up a little bit, but I'm thinking you said late this week, so you'd have the weekend maybe to look at it. Is that
right?
Just a bit, okay. Okay.
And
Okay.
my video and voice seem to be going in and out here. Okay, you're back again.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Next up, project funding / special assessment / loan / combination of the above. This is one where we're just gonna have to get on the same page, so just bear with for a second. So this is the one where I floated the idea to legal about this hybrid approach that had been just given as an idea, and of the idea that we would have a loan, but that if you wanted to essentially pay ahead or pay a lump sum, that your responsibility would be covered by that. And then if you wanted to, or if you couldn't or didn't want to, for whatever reason, do an upfront payment, then you could participate in a loan. And I believe, and I'll let people characterize it, the intent was to try to provide some flexibility, right? So that if you preferred to pay up in front, you could, and then if you didn't, you just would have to, participate in the loan, and that would entail interest. That particular method has been, Kristen said that it wouldn't be allowable for two reasons. One is that what I just call the all for one for all, which is you cannot have a portion of the community that is on the hook to pay an interest charge, and then have another group who paid upfront not be. And then furthermore, and this one I didn't anticipate, the second one, as she said, it could be a fair housing consideration too, by disadvantaging people who couldn't pay the whole upfront. And so, because it would essentially mean that people who couldn't afford it would pay more in total over time, and thus would be penalized, for lack of a better term, for their lack of ability to pay up front. And so those are the two reasons why she feels that they would not be allowable under the various instruments. But that does not mean that either one of those is out of bounds on its own. So a special assessment can obviously be done. And in a special assessment, we can also offer payment plans, zero interest payment plans for people. So if if we say, hey, you got to chip in X number of $1,000, yeah, you can have a year to pay it, or you can do it up front. There's still be the flexibility to pay upfront versus over time. It's just that, it's for everybody. It isn't just for people who want to kind of opt out of a loan. Likewise, a loan is still completely allowable. It's just that the loan would then be for everybody's account, and would just essentially be another line item if it were technically feasible to add that to your payment, to your monthly payment. So that's where we say either one of them is allowable. And actually, they're both allowable in a way, like, let's say we needed to borrow, let's say we're $2 million short. We could add, we are $2 million short. We could do a special assessment for $1 million, in which everybody's got to participate, and we could do a loan for the rest, in which everybody has to participate. We can do one or the other, we just can't do the hybrid. So that being said, I want to make sure that that is clear to the board, and questions, comments, concerns, et cetera, on that particular topic.
Yeah, so it was always gonna be a special assessment. It was just about doing the hybrid approach of trying to help the association take the smallest amount of loan needed and to help people out if they couldn't do it. So we can't do it, we can't do it. We'll just, my thing is that we just do a special assessment.
I mean, I would differ respectfully on that, because my recollection of the conversation from time immemorial at this point was that essentially the big decision that the board was going to eventually make was special assessment or loan or a combination of the two. So to my mind, that's still very much a live question. To that end, I wanted to really drill down on that and say, without speaking for you two, I know that you and Ginger have been more in touch, more intimately in touch with the nuts and bolts of finances. So I have a reasonable view of the things that you've spoken about in previous meetings. But I really want to hear is from Valerie and Mark, because, you know, at some point we're going to have to go on the record and take a recorded vote and say, are we doing A or B or a combination of A and B? And you know, I've said from the beginning that I'm inclined to favor a loan because of the for people who can't afford it. And I for one would say, yes, I understand that it's more expensive, but that's what loans are for. And therefore you pay a little bit more on a monthly basis in order to even out the cash flow. But I respect the opinion of just ripping off the Band-Aid and taking care of it. But in order to move forward, I think we need to hear everybody's view. So I would invite Valerie or Mark to kind of weigh in on their thinking on this. You don't have to commit yourself and your firstborn, but just to give your thinking on this. And so Valerie, you're in person, so if you have anything you want to
I do prefer the loan option, but I guess will we not have that amount until we hear back from legal in terms of the contract, know what our final number is? Is that what we're waiting for, or?
We definitely will not know our final number until we lock in a contract with this company. We got a bid from them in April.
Right.
It's almost July. Stuff changes like by the day, by the week. I have no idea what the raw material costs are going to be when they have to go buy windows. Like, until we lock in a contract and sign and say, okay, now give us your best and final quote, now that we're signing a contract on the 20th of June versus the 20th of April or the 20th of May, then we will know what the final cost is.
Right.
And like any other thing you bought, if you said, to buy a car, the car price might be different in April as it might be in July. So especially with tariffs floating around and everything else. So no, I will tell you, I don't want to make a vote until I know, we think, all of our math was based on the April price. I have no idea what the end of June price is going to be. That will say how much we have to come up with, and that might have an impact on how I vote.
Same. Also, we went with the recommendation of 10% increase, so we factored that in.
We factored in 10%, but it could be 50%. I mean, I don't know is the point.
Correct.
And we haven't heard back either. That's the part that's making me anxious. My biggest anxiety is maybe that's what it should be as the treasurer, but I'm a resident and an owner, and I'm anxious about what the final price is going to be that we're going to lock them into until we lock them in. So until we have a contract, I'm anxious.
Fair enough. Just to be clear, and Mark, I'll get to you in a second, which is, was not suggesting that we should vote tonight. I just want to get an all things equal sort of, stance. So, my view is all things equal, if the contract were thrown in front of us and it were the same terms as everything we've talked about before, I would support taking a loan rather than a special assessment. But again, my vote also could change if, depending on the information. So with that caveat in mind, which is kind of an all things equal, Mark, are you more of a leaning towards more of a special assessment or a loan, or need more information, or
I do need more information. But I would lean towards a loan rather than a special assessment. I don't think that a special assessment, and Val, you can help me out here, shows very well when you come to resale.
I agree with you, Mark.
So a loan would be the way to go. But again, we need to get the contract, and you know, it is disturbing that it's, you know, 2 months later and we don't have a contract. I mean, I don't remember when I read the original proposal from Lindman. Do they have a date? Do they have this, you know, these prices hold for 30 days or 90 days or 120 days? You know, like to go back, and we should go back and look at that.
Yeah, that's a good point. The validity period of the initial proposal.
I think we've already passed it.
I think we have, but it's just worth looking. I know they're anxious based on some of their responses to this email saying, hey, we really want to get going. And I don't want, obviously they want to get going because they want to get a $4 million contract.
Yeah, but there's also, look at the weather, guys. We've lost 2 good months. Well, I don't know, call it good months. We can, but we've lost 2 months of weather, potential warmer weather. And now we're pushing the project more into the fall and winter versus the summer and the fall. So there's cost implications, there's weather implications. There's a lot of reasons why we need to move forward as quickly as possible.
And fair enough, and thank you, everybody.
Yeah, short answer for me is loan.
Okay, again, will continue to consider this. I just kind of wanted to get a pulse or a sense of the group, because, you know, at some point, that's the vote that will need to happen is the payment plan for this. And it's either going to be a loan, a special assessment, or a division of it, you know, depending on the exact figures we have. So I just ask you to kind of keep that in mind as we move towards that eventual decision. And the reason why it's, you know, needs to just stay alive in our minds is, I don't think, and I'll let others chime in, I don't think that we should vote on approving the contract and putting, you know, Ginger's and my pen to paper until we also have a resolution that specifically authorizes the funding, or else we're just going to be signing away 4.5 or whatever it is $million, and then we can't do that. So, and I also don't want to be in a situation where, let's say, a majority of this board wants to do a loan. We kind of say, oh yeah, we're going to do a loan. We sign the contract, and oh, we don't get the loan. Well, then we don't have any options anymore. Then we have to vote. So then we have to have a special assessment. So I'll just kind of keep all those moving parts in mind. Again, nobody's bound. I mean, we can all change our minds. Just it's coming to that end.
We need to know from legal and CA Lindman what as they're doing these final I dotting T crossing negotiations is, where are we on the cost? That we need to know post haste, like this week.
And it's all blanked out on the contract.
We need to know, so that if I need to be, I got lenders going, are you going forward with the loan or not? And so they can start locking in, you know, getting us, you know, updated estimates and stuff. And if we are, you know, gonna have our options open, and we're not gonna sign a contract if we don't have a loan or not pre-qualified for a loan, in case we're gonna go down a loan, we need to be getting down that path and have that ready, and we can either agree to that or not agree to it, but I gotta know how much that loan is that we need to be leaning forward with, and that's all predicated on knowing what the contract cost is
Because
gonna
we
be.
can get a personal loan like inside of an hour.
Oh,
We're not getting a loan for this building inside of a week.
yeah, no, yeah, I agree with you.
Well, shit, we can't get a contract, I'm sorry, excuse my language, but we can't get a contract in 2 months.
I understand your dialect, French.
I apologize.
All right.
Apologize to the community.
So moving on, treatment of units previously replaced. This is more just to Melina, for you to make sure this keeps going in the conversation, which is, we did a demo unit, right? Which was a first floor unit right around here, I believe. And then there were 2 fire damaged units along the way. And we just want to make sure, first of all, I know that the demo was done by CA Lindman, but the fire damaged ones I know were dealt with through insurance. So I'm not exactly sure who the vendor was for those. Does anybody who worked with those know who actually did the windows? Was it Lindman, or maybe we just need to figure it out? But in any event, we need to do a -3 because we paid dearly for the test units and well, we didn't pay dearly for.
Yeah, we did.
We paid dearly for the
Yep.
test unit. We didn't pay for the fire damage units because those are insurance claims. But for the demo unit, we certainly did pay a lot of money. Like what's $50,000?
Yeah,
Something like that.
or a window and a door.
Yeah, so it was a great deal of expense. It was several years ago. So I don't think there's anything more there, just to monitor that we get a minus on that so that we're replacing 217 doors and windows and not 220, when we've already paid for 3. Next up is status of funds and.
So
Go
we're
ahead.
making sure that the lawyer or particular, like specifically calls out those 3 unit numbers in the contract?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
also, we just need to circle wagons with the insurance claims and make sure, like, did they do the same window and door? Do we have to replace those windows?
And
and
were they
doors?
done to this, like, the whole thing about one for all, one for whatever, and was that everything had to be done to the same standard.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that we can say that because of the conditions that they were done under, that they were done under the standards and they took all the, taken care of, looking at the, the
Facade.
envelope, the facade, thank you, as well as the window replacement, and the window replacement was done to the standard, that those 2 units were done to the standard that we are holding all the other units to, so we do not have a gap and don't have to replace those 2, because if they weren't done to the right standard, then we would have to replace those 2 to be consistent. So I don't know how we figure all that out, but very, very, very fast, we need to figure that out and dot i's and cross t's, and
Yeah,
so that we do have one consistent solution across the whole thing.
yeah, and for the demo, of course, we just asked CO say Lindman, but for the
To
fire
attest
damage,
for it,
yeah,
yeah.
but for the fire damage, we just want to make sure who did it and the
Well,
test.
for the sample door and window that we have, we probably easily just ask to go in the unit and go.
That is.
The 505 window and door, that design is, well, it meets all the codes and standards. It's different from the window that is in Melina's office right now.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, we'll have to get more information on that then.
I mean, if you remember, there was between the 2 window panes, or the windows that moved, there was this huge mullions that stuck out in the original. This does not have those.
So what are you saying? That we're gonna have to replace both of those units again?
Sounds like it.
That's what it sounds like.
Is that what you're saying, Mark?
It could be. I don't know. If Lindman did the work, they would have used the standard that they gave us, I hope. But somebody needs to go look at them.
Do they have to look the same, or do they have to be of the same quality, fit, form, and function?
I would say that they have to be of the same quality, fit, form, and function. I would also say that if we're going through this exercise and paying $4 million, for window and door replacement and some flashing, that they should all look the same. But I don't know what Lindman priced. Did they price those 3 units as well? Or did they leave those out of their pricing?
Well, we shall inquire and make sure legal's looped in and make to, so that the proper amount is on whatever final document. Before we move on, I would like to invite a motion, we have the number. A motion, who would like to move that the board approve the invoice to CA Limit in the amount of $63,350? So moved by, we'll call it Ginger, and seconded by Kyle, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to status of funds and investment.
Okay, before you
transfers.
move on, Tom.
Yeah,
Melina, I'm gonna be back in the building tomorrow in the afternoon or over there Wednesday. If we could, is there a way to take the sample that you have in your office and just go into those 3 units and see, you know, how the windows match up?
Oh, that was good, because we funded it.
yeah, the demo should be good because it was to see it was limited to the specifications that we were contemplating at the time. So I think it'd be 505 and was 911 were the two, if I'm not mistaken, on the second one.
Yep.
All right,
Like,
just a visual check.
I'll follow up with you on the schedule, because I do have meetings on Wednesday, so tomorrow's better, but I have to contact the unit owners to get access to the units.
Okay. So do it on Thursday or Friday.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. All right, before we get to E and F, which are related, there is a nexus here, so even though it's not strictly to the Windows thing, that does kind of involve the money that we're gonna use for it. Changes that we've been made aware of, and I'll repeat this at the next regular meeting, is that both the community manager, and this is news to the board as of within the last just couple days, not only the community manager, but our vice president at Legaman Norman are both, David Hahn has left the company and John Williams is just, they're redistributing the portfolio. So our new vice president's name is Darcy Niles, and our community manager's name is Christian Schatz. So DARCY for Darcy, and that's NILES for Niles, and then Christian, and then Schatz, SCHATZ. I've invited Christian to come to hopefully the next board meeting, if not one in the very near future, so that we can do some level setting with him. And John Williams had actually offered to meet with me on a monthly basis, a week before every board meeting, so that we could make sure that everything was in order. And then he has moved on, so we'll see if his successor is still wanting to do that. So that leads us into status of funds and investment transfers. Quick and dirty here is, this is the, yeah, okay. Quick and dirty here is that last summer, Legaman Norman, before our friend Melina was here, just stopped transferring our reserve funds to our reserve account. And I think we're almost to a year now. We are of grave concern about this, because, and I'll yield the floor to Ginger in a moment for anything she wants to say. Just as a big mistake, and we lost out on a lot of interest, right? I mean, when CDs are yielding 4% and you're short, you know, essentially almost $1 million, you know, do the math, right? And so, but more importantly than that is that we have been pressing this issue for a couple of months now and haven't had a result in moving the ball forward. And so, you know, the community should be aware that, again, no imputing anything to Melina, because this is more of a back office thing, is, you know, the board has expressed its concern and is expressing its serious concern about this action, which has cost us money and gives us pause, shall we say, because making sure that the money goes where it's supposed to go is a big deal, and one of the big reasons why we have a professional management company. And so their failure to effect that is giving us grave pause. So that's just the overall setup. I was told by John Williams last Monday, I want to say, maybe a Friday before that he was gonna take it in his vice presidential authority to solve the problem ASAP, and at least as far as we're standing here now, I haven't seen it yet, and Melina, I know tracks it more than I do, so.
An email came out today
Okay.
that supposedly at least 2 or 3 attempts have bounced back because of, I don't know, administrative errors in how they submitted it or what account they used, or was the account acknowledged, or I don't know, it looks like excuse after excuse. Supposedly everything is lined up and the transaction was resubmitted today. I looked at 5 o'clock and there was no indication that there was a pending deposit. I will look again tomorrow and I will let the team know if I don't see anything by 5 o'clock tomorrow. But according to the Legman Norman folks in the back office, they finally, after like 3 or 4 attempts, have gotten their ducks straight, and they've got all the account numbers straight, and they're referencing things right, and it should transact, and the money, at least for the last 3 months, should be at Morgan Stanley by tomorrow, and I should be able to see it. If I do not at close, when I get home from work tomorrow, I will make sure everyone on the board is aware, in Melina.
Okay. All right. So we'll speak to this.
No, because I'll say something inappropriate.
This is really alarming.
She may revert to French.
I will divert to French, so I will not say anything else.
Two of the biggest things we hired to do things for us are both costing us money right now. The lawyers have delayed us for 2 months. Lincoln Norman has prevented us from investing for almost a year.
So we will continue to monitor that. I mean, how do we fix it, prevent it from recurring in the future?
I'm gonna be more eagle eye.
I think it might be time to look at another management
I
company.
mean, I'm all into looking at a different management company, but
So let's see, you know, in the shortest term.
act together.
Yeah, let's see in the shortest term what we get in the next, because I mean, we have had insurances before and they haven't panned out. So let's just, you know, Ginger's gonna trust but verify.
Also,
I don't know if there's any trust at this point. It's just gonna be
I
verified.
don't want to do anything hasty either, because we're going on this project, so.
You know.
But I need to start keeping our aperture open, I think.
All right, point taken. Okay,
All new leadership. We will give them, my thing is give them a chance to, you know, show their thing, but I definitely sooner rather than later want to meet this Christian guy, the guy that's backfilling David, and be clear what our expectations are. And maybe get a better situation going on here.
fair enough. All right, well, we've been discussing as we go along, so board discussion and action items is just an opportunity for us to go back and make sure we're tracking on the things that we need to track on. So what I'm tracking so far is, you know, whether or not CA Lindman, you know, intends to submit more invoices against the LOI. We're also just the general spurring of action to that conversation so that we can get actionable contract with a specific amount attached to it by the next board meeting and in advance of that board meeting in particular. We're gonna think about special assessment versus loan versus combination based on what we see in that. I'm gonna circle here because one of the things is that we need to check those 2 fire damaged units as Mark and Melina were talking about. So they'll report back to us on what they find and whether or not that's gonna be, you know, -2 or in addition to the -1 for the demo. And Ginger will let us know about the investment transfers, and I'm hoping, and I'm really gonna press Christian that if he wants to make a good impression, coming to the first board meeting in person would be a fine way to start it. If he can. I understand sometimes the community managers have more than one board meeting in a night, and I understand they can't make it to every single one, but I will certainly encourage
Our
him.
next meeting is the 26th.
26th, the other last.
And I apologize for interrupting.
No worries.
However, for this Christian guy, We have not gotten our April financials yet.
Okay.
It's the 16th of June. I would like the,
Be fair to say we
April
haven't got
financials.
May either.
and I would like the May financials before the next board meeting. Not at the next board meeting, but before the next board meeting. If you're gonna talk about making an impression, like just start having Lindman or Legum and Norman do their job. Right now, they're not doing their job. Sorry.
And before, meaning like maybe a day or two or 3 or 4 days, not like 5 PM before 6 PM meeting.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Getting to us an hour before is not getting it to us because nobody can be expected to wade through, the Excel spreadsheets in, 10 minutes before you can get the highlight, you can't get in depth to it. Okay. So those are the things that I'm tracking from above. Anything else the board members would like to add on the subject that's related to the subject before we go to open forum? Okay. All right, that being said, we will have one session of open forum today, and I will open the floor either to folks in person, and Melina will monitor the online audience. Barbara.
I just have a couple of thoughts, as I usually do, so appreciate your forbearance. Out of everyone sitting here, I really get the frustrations of working with the attorney and working with Legum and Norman. I can't even believe that I'm saying this, but maybe it's time to hear presentations from some other management companies. I don't know that you're going to gain anything by interviewing other law firms. There's a handful that are competent, as we know, in this field of working with associations like ours. But I do think that it would be interesting to get a number from Lindemann, and anybody else involved, as far as what this could be costing us from their negligence, to be able to present to them and say, you've already cost us X number of dollars more. And I also think for Legum and Norman, you've cost us X number of dollars in interest on our reserve funds through your negligence. Do your damn jobs. And that's why I keep harping on the financials, because it never used to be this way. The other thing that I wanted to mention too was, I think it might be useful for the community if you can kind of maybe pull this together once you've got the actual data to work from, to present scenarios of what our individual unit costs might look like vis-a-vis a special assessment versus the loan for like a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, just rough numbers. Because I don't know that we're all really cognizant of what a loan versus a special assessment means in terms of pros and cons, and specifically dollar amounts.
Thank you very much. Barbara or Donna Fossil?
Some of you know that I was president here for 10 years, going back, some board for 22 years. When we're on the board, we did the submarine, we had major projects, and just like you all. And our lawyer, Race Broom, used to be Race Broom and Diaz. And that was Ray Diaz. And he was our attorney, first-class attorney. I did not realize that he had left the firm until a couple of years after he'd done that. I had been appointed to the planning commission in the city, which is where all my time and my attention went. And he moved on to, I can't remember the name of the other firm, but there was a first-class firm in this area here for community associations. I'll look it up and get it to you tomorrow. But he went to that firm, and as an honorable partner does, they don't take their clients with them. And he didn't take us. I didn't even know this had happened. And when I discovered it, I recommended to the board that they go with Ray, because he's got our brains, he's got our history, he's got everything with him. it didn't happen. I don't know what caused it, but you are probably aware of the fact that people at Race Broom have come after me personally. And now you may get an idea of why they've done that. I mean, I was given a cease and desist letter from Todd Sinkins over there for something I had done here. And so I've been a good girl for several years. But I would encourage you to look to other people for a bunch of reasons. And now I think you know why. And the other one is that Legum and Norman has had issues with other people in the field over the recent years. So I would go with Barbara, encourage you to look elsewhere. Unfortunately, it's hit us double zero right now. But I think we can, get our way through, whether it's before or after. But we need to be made whole. By not moving the funds, it's their problem. They need to cough up the equivalent of the 4% interest. They gotta figure out where it's coming from. We don't know. It's ours. So you better get it to us. And so my comments are, look to other lawyers. We should have done that a long time ago, in my opinion. And the other management, there's other good management companies in this area. They tend not to be here. They tend to be at Tyson's because that's where the clientele went. And I will get you the name of the other firm tomorrow.
Okay. Just for the avoidance of doubt, I want to make sure that you weren't implying this, Don. I just want to make sure that the crux of the matter isn't that the money was, absconded with per se. It was just, it's the failure is in the failure to transfer it from a non-interest bearing account to what would be a 4+4. So
They
that-
still need.
yes, no, it's a lost opportunity cost.
Opportunity
No
cost,
question.
exactly. That's
question.
what I was
Yeah, I just
talking
want to make it clear that we're not accusing them of theft or anything like that. Okay, I think we have an online question. Justin.
Yes. Hi, it's
Hello, neighbor.
yes, how are you doing? It's Justin from 612. I just wanted
Talk from 6:13.
to third, I guess, all of this. I mean, I had my own experience with Legum when I moved in here. They ended up charging me basically the condo fee change twice for the first 2 years I lived here. So it was about $250, and it took me 9 months of calling them and to get someone to fix it. They ended up sending me an entire month, $850 when I needed 200. So that kind of told me all I need to know. They sent me free money. And the other thing is I'm seeing them, they're behind 3, 4, 5 months on monthly financials. Why are they even doing monthly financials? It doesn't make sense to me. It's been on my mind for a while, and I don't know if there are alternatives, but I hope you guys can look for alternatives because this is just becoming unacceptable. And I wanted to throw my sense on that.
All right, thank you, Justin. Is there anyone else online? So we do 2 and 2, or should we go back to? Nope. Anybody else? Oh, all right. Yes, sir. Patrick, is it ready?
Brian, I fail to see how previously replaced units, demo and fire damage, are any different from the weather replaced units that I put in or that anybody else put in. I mean, if we're gonna charge one, we're gonna charge them all, including the demo and the fire damage. I don't see any justification for separating those if you can't separate the other ones that have been replaced.
So I brought up this whole window thing, so I don't think the fire ones get, unless they pay for it through insurance and they got the same, form, function, fit, repair, facade, just like we're all gonna go into, and they already paid that through the insurance up to the standards, then I think they paid. The demo did not pay for it, they're gonna pay just like the rest of us, and if those fire ones weren't replaced at the same standard that we're all getting replaced, then those are gonna go on the thing too.
It's about the quality standard.
Right.
Is what you're saying. Grade, I guess is.
And I don't know if they paid through insurance. I don't know if insurance, they just paid like $100, it's not $100 deductible. we're all children, but I don't know if they pay like $1,000 deductible and, the insurance, but, we'll figure out we'll figure out what each unit costs, because we need to do that to make a decision. So we can easily share that once we figure that out. So I think that's fair to show to everybody. And I think one thing this board has demonstrated is we're open kimono. We haven't hid anything. We've shared as much information as we get it, some of it in real time. So yeah, everyone's paying their share.
Okay, all I'm saying is if we took a look at all the ones that have been placed, what the status of them is, we could save a significant amount of money by having replaced 200 instead of 250 or whatever.
Well,
Well, thank you,
and
thank you. Ed, go
607,
ahead.
Dave Haley, who I think everybody knows around here, anyway, he off the cuff said to me, and I don't know the answer to this, he said he feels that it's 80 to 90% of the units are the original windows and doors. And I thought, oh gosh, that seems impossible to me. I know mine have been replaced, not by me, but previous owners. But anyway, do you have any idea that most of these are original
Yes.
windows? and-
Yes, there was,
They
yes.
are.
Yeah.
Well, what's the point? Of course, we all have to have a replacing. I mean, mine are pretty good, but I'm gonna go with the flow and replace them like everybody else. I mean, I don't see the.
Yeah, we had
But
a,
it's kind of shocking to me that in 50 years now, 80 to 90% of it, because I had a house, I would replace it 2 or 3 times, I replaced the windows 60 years.
yeah, at the earlier start of the stage of this process, we had the inventory of when TDL came and that's when they specified the units and the windows and doors in the schedule. All right, anybody, Barbara?
Just a quick question, Barbara Rosenthal, 809. The windows, the samples in Melina's office are 2 different colors. Do we know which one we're going with? I vote for the browner one myself, if that matters, but I mean, I'm just curious because they're noticeably different from each other.
Well, Melina handed me this envelope as I walked in here, and so it has, sorry, folks, that it's various types of bronze. So I guess there will be some options, is that, okay, so, she'll probably put these out and just don't cut yourself on these things. So we are gonna have some things to look at, so.
So that hasn't been selected?
No, that'll be something, well, stylistically, we'll make a choice after, we determine the specs, but anyway, 3 different kinds of bronzes here. All right, anybody else?
Hi,
Online?
yeah, hi, this is Michelle Lewison, 1211.
Hi, Michelle.
I'm on a different phone, so I can't figure out how to do anything, but a question I have is, I have storm windows and a storm door. Would that make a difference in determining the pricing or the, like, I don't know. I don't know if my doors are, at least this patio door, I don't know if it's wider or deeper than what's proposed or not. So I'm just wondering if there might be an extra cost associated with that.
Did you say stone?
Storm.
Storm, okay.
Storms.
Wow, yeah, stone, I mean, we got another question around our names. No, storm windows will no longer be necessary, so they'll be removed.
Right. I'm just wondering in terms of the depth of especially the patio door, because it's kind of wide because there's 3 doors. And I don't know if the width is the same as with being replaced.
It needs to be, is the answer. So, yes. Mark?
There is going to be, they use a black mastic on the walls for those thicker windows where they had the screens on them. That is going to have to be removed. And they're not going to go around and give you different thicknesses in terms of the styles of the windows. So they'll all be the same.
Will be made uniform. All right.
I asked that question of the engineers, but I too have storm doors and storm windows. And I said, are you planning to bring me back to where I am today? Which means with a window and a storm window, et cetera. And the gentleman from, I can't remember his name, from Lindemann, he sort of laughed, he said, lady, he said, you don't have storm windows and storm doors anymore, because the basic construction is such that the technology will bring you up to speed. Everybody will have the equivalent of storm doors and
That's correct.
storm windows. So that's where you're gonna be, and you're not gonna have what you are right now. You're gonna be replaced with something better.
No, I understand that. I was just wondering if there was an additional cost because of the extra material.
No,
Yeah.
they said that they will
No,
remove
no.
them as part of the contract, they're just not reinstalling them. So if you'd like to retain them, you can retain them and reinstall them at your own expense, but you
Oh,
shouldn't
no.
need to install
No,
them.
I
You
don't
should
want
be
them at
done.
all.
They will haul them away.
They will all, they're gonna solve your problem.
The
No, I
quote
didn't want
includes
them at all.
hauling
I
them
just,
away.
I know that it wasn't a common element. I just didn't know if it was an additional cost because of it.
No, ma'am.
No. no, ma'am.
Okay, that was it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, unless there's anybody else online who's come up in the meantime, is there anything?
There. I was trying to unmute her, but I can't find her. So her question,
Anybody on chat?
no. So, for some reason, so 110 says the window and patio door was also replaced. My condo unit was the original test unit.
That's the demo.
That's the demo.
That was the demo.
110.
Okay. All right, hearing no other, we'll leave open forum. And before we adjourn, I just want to give opportunity to any board members. Is there anything that we've missed today, either in terms of something to talk about or an action item that you want to raise before we depart?
No.
All right. So the regular board meeting, remind me of the date, is the
26th.
26th, which is not this coming Thursday, but next.
Yes.
And no further business. The meeting is, wait for it, adjourned.
What time?
I will take endless pleasure from that, so just bear with it, right? Bear with it.
You forgot to tell her the time.
I got it,
Oh.
7:01. I got it, 7:01.
7:01.
Yes, yes.
All right, 61 minutes left.
Melina looked out for me.
All right.